and welcome to our mid-season chat about our current season and the attunement theme that accompanies it. My name is Megan, and this is Madam Moonflower. My dear, would you mind sharing, for those who don't know, what attunement themes are?
My pleasure. So, an attunement theme is a lens with which we overlay on top of a season. So, right now we're in the middle of summer. We passed the summer solstice on our way to August 1st, Lunasa. For those who are following the witches' wheel of the year. And the attunement theme that's kind of overlaid this is called Hallowed Ground. And so while we go through the seasonal things of summer and the experiences, we're using the attunement theme to kind of pay special attention to a particular area of our lives via the theme so that we can notice synchronicities and it just draws our awareness to a focal point instead of trying to experience our whole lives and find meaning in every facet. We're allowing the themes to kind of dial us in every season to a potential facet of things that we never considered, like the idea that Hallowed Ground was channeled to be during the 4th of July, mid-high summer in the United States, and what that really means to the original peoples here, what it means to the people who live here now, what it means to, enslaved peoples who were brought here, and all of these different things. What does the 4th of July and hallowed ground mean to immigrants who came here for a better life? So I think it's just actually really beautiful and slightly embarrassing to be a white American in this moment and having been the one to bring the theme at this timing through my channels. So that is today's synopsis of an attunement theme.
I love it because it's always true, the true essence and vibration of what these attunement themes are, but there's like a very current seasonal twist to each iteration, and I love it. I mean, I would, because I know you and I've been following the seasons and the attunement themes for a few years now. I would challenge that feeling of like your expression of feeling silly as like a white person having channeled this during this time. I feel like it speaks to your deep medicine and your visionary wisdom, because why not you to bring light to this time in a way of hallowed ground? Like, why not? Like, it doesn't have to be a person of color, or an indigenous person. I think the more people with eyes and like all three eyes on what's happening, the better. So
No,
yeah,
I hear that. I thank you for that. I think it's more of an embarrassment of the collective of whiteness, that
yeah,
not a personal like.
good.
But I hear you. I appreciate that. And I agree. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you always do such a great job of like, you know, individual education and acknowledgement and betterment. Um, I personally don't view you in the way that I view a greater collective of whiteness. Um, you are an ally. I think most people would say that. So hopefully in the days and months and years to come, you can shoulder some of that embarrassment, because that is not you. I
Thank
think
you.
you do
Thank you.
a really beautiful balance of owning what's yours and what's up and alive and, could be elevated in your bloodline. but also you're a fucking down ass witch that is like not gonna stand in the face of injustice if it's right in front of you. So I'm like, that feels pretty fucking balanced to me with
Fair
everything
enough.
else that's going on in life, like real life shit, finances, relationships, business, emotional, mental health, and to still show up the way you do and champion, I think is admirable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, for the culture, for the culture.
Well, the go to. So Hallowed Ground. Um,
Hallowed Ground.
our attunement for Midsummer. Which by the way, if you're seeing this, Rachel and I did a phenomenal attunement talk on Instagram. And I'll put the link below if you'd like to watch that. And so this will be in essence like a continuation of that, but like I can't say that it's going to be a direct like continuation because I can't remember everything we talked about. I'm sure little
Mhm,
snippets come through, but just today in this moment, especially coming off of like last week with that full moon and yesterday, the 4th of July, for me personally, just lots of like feelings. And justice is a big feeling and energy that has come up with Hollowed Ground that I wasn't expecting. Justice and injustice.
mhm,
And where do I hold that? Where do I hold that in my body? And then where and how do I carry it on the how do I carry it on the ground? Like here in this 3D plane in my life. And a lot of that justice and injustice, I do feel it, from my lived experience, like this just heightened awareness of my lived experience. But a lot of it is ancestral. Hollowed ground has been so deeply eye opening and unearthing ancestrally for me, which for those who know me personally, I'm like, oh, maybe that's just not very shocking. I feel like every other season there's something deep and ancestral being unearthed, but it just has a little bit of a different twist and a flavor um, this season and then the last week. Um, it feels like I instead of me feeling almost like anchored, like literally an anchor tied to me and just like being pulled down and immersed in like this ancestral wave of like intensity, it doesn't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm drowning in discomfort or pain or navigating so much discomfort or pain. It feels like a very earthy stability. Like there are uncomfortable things coming up. There are like things to be looked at and released and cleared and elevated, but I feel so stable in it.
mhm,
And that is surprising because I've also been very tired this season. Um, Summer solstice is usually the time where I'm like in full go mode, and I just haven't quite been that way. And just like more mindful of my energy, how I sustain it, how I utilize it, while also feeling very, very stable.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the moon energy was pretty wild, and I think I'm actually a little bit opposite of you. By the time the summer solstice hits, my, very delicate skin and overheatedness are just like, okay, we have arrived at summer, and I probably, you know, wouldn't be sad if I died right now. I'll be sad come October, but right now, it's
Fuck this
rough.
shit.
It is rough, but this year has been pretty enlivening. I feel like that Cancer new moon um woke me up again. Like I feel like going into menopause with this like super intense couple of years of perimenopause, like wild swinging emotions, violent behaviors, rage, like moving halfway across the country, like all of these things, like culminating in, I feel like a kind of a settling, like both
Mhm.
physically, definitely emotionally. And like, I feel a tide for me rising again, which I was like, I'm never going to do anything big again. The energy is just not here. I don't have it. I'm never going to have it again. And it's not true. And I imagine I will go through more cycles like that where I feel so depleted and done. But I just realized this as a larger arc of myself as a creator, because I don't
Mhm.
consistently create small things over periods of time. I do massive pushes and then collapses, and that's just the way it is. And that's the way it works. And I feel like if we pull back far enough, there is its own balance to it. So I don't even feel the need to like, I should do this differently. I want to be more blah blah. Like, no, this is my cycle. This is my large multi-year creative cycle, about 5 to 7 years of creation, and then a letting go of several years before another creation rises. And um, I feel like in this time of hallowed ground, I've been in my house for 2 years now. I have a very large, in town lot that I'm allowing to grow wild. So I have a regular, I think I talked about this in the last live, a little business cards in my door like, hey, do you need us to mow your lawn? And I'm like, I'm not mowing this lawn. We're not doing that. We're doing something else. Can you see that there are paths mown into the lawn? Can you see that there's intention here? And I thought I was winning. I'm winning on the flea and fly front, but the mosquitoes are also back. I'm like itching like crazy. I'm like, oh, I got bit while I was trying to set up out there today. So we're still working on that within natural ecosystem ways. And so for me, hollowed ground is also a more deep recognition of my ancestry here in this weird little small town called Gonzales, which used to be, I think it was the capital of Texas for a period of time. Um, and to understand like my very location, like within 100-mile radius, this was like a strife-ridden place. There were 3 different native tribes who warred here. I don't think they were fighting over territory. I think this just was the battleground area. I think, and I'm still learning the history, so I can't. I'm not providing receipts right now. These are just my impressions. We have, the Alamo was a little ways away. We had, our famous cannon that you can learn about, where our claim to fame in our town is come and take it. Come and try to take this cannon and we'll kill you. Do you know what I mean? Like this is the white settlers revolt over the Mexican government that lived here. We were invited to settle and make this land prosperous, and then we just stole it, as we do here. And then to also put together the pieces, Galveston, which is a couple of hours away from me, it was the last place that enslaved people were illegally held for, I don't know how long it was, like, I don't remember the dates, but for some decades beyond the
Wow.
emancipation of slaves. And that's why we have Juneteenth. We have Juneteenth because of Texas. Okay, because it was Juneteenth when the last peoples learned.
Mhm.
So I am here in this hallowed ground of Texas, and just finding that this rough and rugged individualism and this like sovereignty that Texas projects actually underlies the most cowardly people that I could imagine being descended from.
Mm.
And it's it's wild. It's wild. Um, I think another piece is rewilding my little lot here in town is actually helping me start to feel the spirit of the land itself, which I could not make a connection to from my, for 2 years, I've been like offerings, different places on the property, like just trying to have that feeling. And this summer, I feel it. And it's my
Mm.
second season of rewilding. So Hallowed Ground has been like, I imagined that I would just find more reverence for the land that I was around, and that would be it. But the discovery of all of the just unimaginable things, and I think that's probably why I'm feeling very tender about it being 4th of July, and just like, what in the actual fuck are we doing, and what a cowardly way to fucking do it. You
Mhm.
know, we burned our town to the ground after the Alamo so that the enemy couldn't come in and use it in Gonzales. We burned the town to the ground so it could not be utilized. What in the actual fuck? We buried the
Mhm.
cannon so they couldn't come and get it. Like,
Mhm.
what in the fuck? Are you kidding me? So
Mm.
this is our hallowed ground. And I do my work here on this, 0.45 acres to try to even just understand the work that actually needs to be done to re-enliven and awaken the land here.
Yeah. I feel like even hearing what you shared in different iterations, like the history of the land, and the history of like your ancestry being there, but hearing it now, and then also hearing about like this 2-year courtship with the land that you're living on, and finally feeling like a deepening in that, it's like, well, that makes a lot of sense now to me energetically, of just like not the just the ancestral piece, but also like what has happened there for almost like the land to be not weary, but almost like, okay, yes, you are here, we are receiving your offerings, and we're gonna just like continue to see, like continue to see if these actions actually are like
Mhm,
genuine.
mhm,
And then it's like the land has opened its bosom to you. It's like opened. Um, but that makes so much sense about just the season, the attunement theme, like hollowed ground. I've been experiencing and thinking and contemplating about like the tangible material, like actual ground, and like, like bodies and experiences that have happened on the land, to the land,
mhm,
and it's been faint in there, like the spirit of the land itself, but just now it feels like very more front facing of like the spirit of the land itself,
mhm,
prior to prior to and containing all that's happened, and also containing everything that will happen.
mhm,
um And it's interesting because I feel this year something shifted for me as well on the land that I live and I steward. Um, it's been an intention of mine, coming from being a city dweller to living on land, um, like pretty off grid, to just continue to challenge myself and to have this way of life be natural, which it hasn't been. Like I have to remind myself of, oh yeah, like there's these other things that I need to do because it's a part of how we live and how, the means that we desire can happen. And it hasn't been until this year where, oh, it's very interesting. Like everything has been cleared out so that I could come to this place of like the land viscerally responding and saying yes, because I feel like I have been in my ways, connecting with the land, leaving offerings, doing like my work here on the land, physically and spiritually, and it's just been like a surge the past 2 to 3 seasons. Actually, that's not true. Since January.
mhm.
I was thinking of, like, even our fire ritual. I was like, "Oh, yeah, like, this has been the year of, like, deep matrimonial connection with the lands."
Mhm.
Um, and, yeah, even just thinking about my life and my schedule, like, I've shared with you, Rachel, in our thread with Koya that there's been all these different things that have come up over the year that I normally do, like travel. And it's been so clear all year long of like, you need to be landed here. Like, I need to be at home. I need to be on the grounds, not just here where I live, but like in this like zip
Mhm.
code. And that's really interesting because it's like, oh, has it all been leading up to Hallowed Ground? Like, has Hallowed Ground really been like reaching through for me like since Yule? It feels like yes. So yeah, it's very interesting.
It is very interesting. I feel that too. That desire to stay rooted. I'm usually like, get out of town as soon as I have a moment and go and see the wide world. I wanted to take an international trip this year, and that didn't happen in favor of 2 road trips. And so I also am feeling that, like, that convenience of plopping yourself in a locale and being somewhere and then plopping yourself back home, via airports is also not really called for as far as traveling this year. And um I also like just tying into the 4th of July and the idea of the United States and America, and really trying to tease apart the government versus the people and the place and the ideals. And um I often fantasize of like, what if I moved to rural Japan? Their houses are crumbling. They need people living there. Or what if I did the same thing and moved to, other places where the populations are declining, like Italy, Ireland. Cheyenne talks about moving to Ghana, maybe, or to another African nation that's building. And gosh, there's always a feeling of like, there's no place like home, though. There's no place like home. And I feel like the US is definitely home. Texas is feeling more and more like home, but California feels like so much of my blood and bones there. But also, like, you know, billionaire money in places to make it not affordable for everybody, and like all of the inequities. I think I would still choose to be here on this hallowed ground and do the work that needs to be done to I don't we can't undo what the US as a government and as a people have undone, but we could dream something else into being. We could restore power and lands where they belong. We could do so many things. And I think that's what hallowed ground has me trying to figure out how to do it in like maybe the most difficult place. I don't even know that there are any indigenous tribal groups still in Texas. I think they've all been removed to other states. Like the
Hmm.
people that were in our area, the Comanche and oh gosh, I can't remember what they're in Oklahoma now. So they're not even here. And like how do you get behind a land back movement when there aren't any people here to land back to? Do you know what I mean? And so just like I guess just being here,
Um,
like my history is being revealed to me. Our history is being revealed, and the things that we've done, and I still am
hmm,
unclear on how to make this place of Texas more hallowed for me, and how to remember my own heart as I think about the US and America, and not get swept away by the absolute tomfoolery is the nicest word I can think of what is happening with actual natural resources within the land, within the national park, the dismantling of so many important things that, perhaps this dismantling means it can be rewritten in an even more beneficial way. Maybe things can be created in an even more protective, undismantleable way,
hmm.
you know? But yeah, I don't know. This is where I find myself post 4th of July in my hallowed home on hallowed ground amongst the desecration of so much incredible beauty.
Mm. Hmm. You've given me a lot to contemplate that I want to respond to, but then I'm also like contemplating on like my experience too of like 4th of July. And it's such a conflicting feeling because I am deeply grateful to live here and that my predecessors survived to get me here, to
Mhm,
be birthed here,
mhm,
to have certain. It's so hard to think about liberties that I have as a Black woman here in this country while what's happening socially, politically, climately. Um, but then and it's not about the comparison game, but then when you look at like Sudan, Palestine, the Congo,
mhm,
it's like, oh my God,
mhm,
yeah, there are huge privileges and things that I'm grateful for being here in this country. And so I'm holding that, and I am holding like a sense of pride. But then I also have this other side that's just so full of grief and like, how can we celebrate a day? How can I celebrate a day
mhm, mhm,
right on it?
mhm,
Also, kind of what you were sharing about like these thoughts of like, just pack all this shit up and just leave. Just go to a different country. Just, go, in an effort to feel a little bit better about like the government of the country and also to feel a little bit better about impact of like being able to witness and see a measurable impact by going to help the people of whatever country or society rebuild or create an infrastructure, whatever. But then I think about, if we all left like these conscious people who are seeing the atrocities of the world, of this country, I should say, and but also can hear the whispers of like the land and are aware of the indigenous elders and like this effort, this ongoing effort, because the indigenous natives were the original Americans. They were here on on these lands. Um, for those of us who are in that vibration and frequency, like, well, how is that bettering this country if we all left?
Mhm.
You know, I feel that there is it's almost like this carrying torch, but not physically, of like a consciousness, like a flame of consciousness, which is what I kept thinking about when you weren't really asking me. You were just like, you had these open inquiries about like you being in place where you are, and like the indigenous people, the natives aren't even there. But I feel like that there's still like a flame, a torch to be carried by giving voice to that.
Mhm.
I feel like as people, it's really easy, as conscious as we can be, to become complacent of like just in our human nature of not being able to carry everything all the time.
Mhm.
Share the load of injustice and justice. Because in singular one-on-one sessions and small groups, she always is giving voice, and I think that's the key of like in these different templates of different cities and communities of like us as the conscious torchbearers, if you will, holding steady to that flame of truth and wisdom, that it is helpful in the grand scheme. It is helpful, but I think it's sometimes, especially coming off of the 4th of July, to feel like, well, is it even helping? Like the natives aren't here, like, is it even helping? What's the point? And there is a point, and I think it's sometimes really just hard to hold in the face of all the other fucked up shit that's happening.
Yeah.
At least for me personally. Yeah.
No, definitely. That's so beautiful. Thank you for that. Also, like, just holding the torch of the knowledge is such an important, yeah, that's so true.
I mean, I'm curious, um, like you having, the knowledge that the indigenous peoples aren't there. Is that something that's talked about? I'm just comparing to Nevada City because I don't have
Oh,
really
no,
other
no,
any
no,
other
no,
context.
no,
Like how in storefronts here, it's like Nisanan, land back
no.
efforts. Like, is there anyone talking about that?
Nobody is talking about anything but their ownership of every square inch of Texas. Okay, there's like 2, 3 parks that I'm sure there are more like small little like natural wonders, like some falls just in my local area. There's these falls, there's, Big Bend National Park, there's this little tiny place very close by, the Palmetto State Park. So there's like these very small protected places, but there are no public lands in Texas.
Mm.
Every stitch is owned by someone. So for a land back movement to even be considered, somebody's giving up their property. And I think that is definitely why it is not being talked about and is absolutely suppressed in my local area. And I don't know about Texas on a grander scale. Um, but we want the nice inhabitable lands, and we can give away or force people to move to. We didn't even own it in the first place. We can force people to move to places that nobody wants. We're not trying to give back stuff that people want. In Texas, we own it. We own every stitch of land. There is no place to forage unless you know somebody who owns property. Or, and I
Mm.
don't even know about the state park laws here in Texas because I have not, it's too hot here for me to be outside like that. I have an uncle who has 26 acres. I do what I can on that little bit of land. Okay. That's mostly wild. But I'm actually ready to start like expanding myself, figure out some hiking, figure out what the regulations and laws are, and then like start to understand the local medicines a little bit better. I have a mesquite tree right here on my land. I can harvest a little bit of mesquite for incense and other things. So I think getting back to that, nobody is talking about what land they're on or whose place this was before. And I think it's also um more muddled because we have, what we're separating as Americans, Native American tribes, and then Mexican people who are also natives. They're also native peoples. And so, understanding that this was all Mexico. You know what I mean? Mexico or the Mexica people. And then all of the different ethnicities and groups that are unrecognized by most of the world of, in the regional places in what we now call Mexico. So I think it's quite a web to untangle that I have started untangling and trying to understand like my home first, exactly at my house. Is there any understanding about it? And not I have very little. But I have learned other cool things like, no, there weren't these weren't settled like Pueblo plains people. They were more nomadic. They moved around a lot. They were on horseback. So there isn't like settlement tells to show where native peoples existed or inhabited. But I've started to learn about signs like there would be trees and landscape clues to show you where water was or a river. Like if you see a tree that's bent sideways and then grows up again, this is a place where water is. So near the main waterways, from a distance, you can see in San Antonio, I think at the Riverwalk, there's a few trees that are like that. People are like, that's so cool. Why did this tree grow like that? How weird. But that it's like one of the signs that this was a place that natives gathered and dwelt, or it was a place to stop when traveling. So I'm just like untangling the lore and trying to understand. I'm sure I would maybe even be embarrassed about this little chat that I'm having right now once I learn more about it and saying things like natives and um I don't know. It's like very hard to feel appropriate as you untangle things that most people here don't want you to untangle. This is not a conversation that anybody wants to be having. We don't even want to talk about racism in a general sense here, much less um and those who do want to talk about racism are also in a place that I was a few years ago in such deep shame that, you know, we're not talking to our ancestors. We don't. we don't venerate our ancestors because they were all evil fucks, or you know what I mean? There's like this
Yeah.
self-hatred that has come with waking up to um atrocity, and that has to be worked through. I feel like that is absolutely a part of the process. And
Mm.
having come out the other side of it, I can I can see clearly, but I feel like the pain and shame and grief must be personally experienced before you can actually be a true ally. Otherwise, if you have not gone through that dark night of the soul and kind of hated your whiteness and hated your ancestors, you cannot actually get to true allyship. You could say all the right words, you could show up for the marches, but if something serious goes down, you're going to be out. You know what I mean? And so I think a huge part of my journey into, having a biracial, an interracial relationship, having a biracial child, and then finding myself in this, like, just in the middle of cracktivities, as one of my favorite Instagram influencer calls it, cracktivism, cracktivities. And he says something else, just the caucasity of things. He's just so hilarious with it that it gives it like a something to laugh about when you're not crying about it. You know what I'm saying? But to find myself in the middle of it and to woo, try to have conversations with folks, or try to just be in places with folks and not cringe from what's being said unconsciously. I don't know. I think I got lost somewhere in the sauce of this conversation, but land back, I think, is where we were. But that's definitely untangling the pieces so I know what I'm talking about, to be able to have discourse about it when I do start to speak about land recognition and the recognition of indigenous peoples. It's a wild web here. Mhm,
And when it comes to learning and evolving, it's like it's never be perfect and clean. And this is something that I, unconsciously allowed to seed into myself too, of like my apprehension in certain circles or settings to talk about my personal experience of justice or injustice, or to talk about what I'm witnessing in terms of justice or injustice, is because I'm like, oh, well, I don't have the actual, like, I don't know if this is politically correct. Like, I don't know if this is like the correct terminology, but it's like, well, how will I ever get better and get over the hump if I don't just jump in? And I think a
mhm,
big part of that humanness outside of social media, outside of like cancel culture, is we are going to fuck up. Like, we are going to
mhm,
say incorrect things. The power is in, yeah, okay, well, I just educated myself. Like, before I was using this word, that word is not the word to use. This is the word. Or, oh, like I was, uneducated on this and now I educated myself. Or, you know what I
mhm,
mean? Like this very human of like, here I am literally doing my best and I can admit when I fucked up and then just pivot. I don't feel like that is really allowed, because we're so inundated with like, if you're on social media, there's like everyone's going to, you're now like pedestalized, and
mhm,
there's like a crowd waiting to like throw tomatoes at you or pick at you or drag you and burn you at the stake. And I'm just not here for it. It's like,
mhm,
no, like it doesn't, like social media doesn't get to govern my humanness. And it's very challenging because it's like, there is a beauty, there is a light, progressive side to social media and technology. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
anti technology, but it's like I watch it very keenly with a close eye,
Mhm.
um, so that I'm not being like governed by it. And it's just, yeah, it's something that I've worked really hard on without vocalizing it specifically, but to just say the things and share the things. And when I learn. And when I can do better, I do better. Um, and there's something really powerful about witnessing that too. Like, I've been able to witness other people that I respect and I admire, um, like, especially in Black culture, to be like, yeah, this isn't the word anymore. This isn't the term anymore. Um, it brought back to, oh, yeah, we're all just trying to figure this out. And it's like, people, so it's like, that's also not human. That is like anti human. It's like when someone in the collective in the community fucks up, we bring them in, like, what's up? Like, what's going on? You said these things, you acting, you wilding. What's up? Like, we're not just gonna push you and strip you of your clothes and beat you and throw you out in the forest. Maybe that's how some people roll. But it's
Mhm.
like, if you are ours, how does it benefit us? How does
Mhm. Mhm.
and the same with
Mhm.
ancestry. Uh, those belligerent, ignorant ancestors, some of them, we
Mhm.
bring them in
I love this.
to
I
change
love
it. But
this thread. Yeah, no, you did not go on a tangent, but I've also been just seeing some of this kind of surface on social media as well. Just the idea of like, y'all want community, but you're canceling everyone. There's no community if we're canceled. Like, who are we? Who are we? And learning about repair versus like exclusion. I think this is a huge, huge, important part of how we all how we all survive, how we all get better, how we all thrive, how we all improve. And it's, not by investing in government, but by investing in community. And community requires that softness and repair. And I also feel like social media is making it so that or the technology of communication is making it that last week it was this was how you said it, and now this week, how dare you say that? This is what we say now. And I'm like, do we need such specificity? Do we need it? And how important really is it to keep? I feel like we spend more time arguing about what you can say instead of dealing with the thing that we're trying to describe.
yeah, yeah.
And so I think I've been trying to speak in more plain terms myself. As a Gemini, that can be hard. I love my words. I love exquisite descriptions. I love drilling in, but I realize even in my own life and in my communications, the more broad my vocabulary, the um not vocabulary, the more I'm using jargon, I think is the word. It's not about vocabulary, it's about jargon. And that's what I'm trying to eradicate from all of my communications consciously at this point. And I think
Mm.
that that internal hallowed ground of communication for me um is seeded by also a little bit of rewilding and a less PC and more authentic isn't the word either. There's more real communication and more real response to communication.
Mm.
Thank you for bringing that all back around in me too with
Mm.
your talk.
Yeah, words. Yeah, it's so interesting. There's something I have notes in my phone from probably months ago of like, and it's something you reminded me of in your share of like how, especially what I witness on social media of like the emphasis on the word versus the emphasis on the actual issue and
Mhm.
repairing. And this is like relationship 101. Like if you're in a romantic, intimate relationship, it's like if we're nitpicking each other on the words that we're using or the tone or our feelings, we're not actually going to come to a solution. We're just going to continue to fucking trigger each other and fluster. And like we're way over here when it's like, hey, could you just pick up your shoes from the front door? Instead of, well, why'd you have to say it that way? Or why? It's just like, yes, I hear you. You don't, the shoes drive you crazy. Yeah, I'll move the shoes. And I feel that because we are so, as a people, there's so much rapid access to information, and like the spiritual healing community has like absolved almost like this huge chunk of like mental health jargon and therapizing, that we're all so aware of our attachment styles and our triggers and our wounding and our ancestral dot dot dot. Like we're so heady that we're not like down here person to person like hearing each other, that it's almost like this battle of minds and wisdom and jargon instead of like what's the real issue here. Like, do you feel heard? Okay, do I feel heard? Okay, what's the issue? Like, how can I take accountability to solve that issue? How can you take accountability to solve the issue instead of, oh well, you're just doing this because you're avoidant and I'm this and da 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 da. And you like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Mhm.
what the fuck even is this? And I feel
No. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
people get in these word battles, and it's like not even about it. Like people aren't we aren't listening to each other.
No,
Like at the first sign of trigger, we like pop off. At the first sign of like we fixate on one word, like in a whole paragraph, it's like, oh, you picked that one word, but you didn't of what the person was saying. Like you're leading with your trauma because you're so informed about your trauma and the trauma of other people that you didn't even hear what they said.
well, I think our traumas have become our identity. So I think therapy and learning about giving a language to feelings, desires, unmet needs, um, abuses. I think this is like the arc of us in consciousness, when therapy started and we started to be self-reflective in the maybe early in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then the 80s it became the me culture, and now everything is about me and my therapist said. And I really truly feel when I look at the way people argue, it is a strategy to not be responsible for and to deflect as much as possible so that pain and discomfort don't have to be experienced. And I think my mom's generation, it felt like, and even my grandma's generation, the more shit you could take without being bothered, the more badass of a person you were. Gen X was like, fuck that. I'm not doing any of that shit. And then they're like the in between. And then the subsequent generations are like, I can't be in discomfort. I need to protect my peace. Like every time I hear someone say, I need to protect my peace, I'm like, is this a just avoidance period? Is this just like, I don't want to deal with anything right now? I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm like, protect your peace from what? From having a relationship. From if your relationship is that bad, then don't be in it. But don't I have to protect my peace. I don't know. I'm not trying to hate on that concept because sometimes I have to, leave my mother's house or you know what I mean? We all have these moments, but if your peace is the penultimate goal, then you should move to an island and not have any human contact. You know what I'm saying? Like, peace
I do.
isn't the goal here. The connection is the goal. And I'm really feeling for the men right now because things are coming back around to bear on the destruction that has been caused by man for thousands of years. And I mean men, period. For every avoidant man, for every time a woman says something to you and you get upset and argue and make it so uncomfortable for her that she doesn't bring her shit to you anymore just to keep the peace, for the way that men destroy, for the way that men wage war, for the way that all of these male things happen. And of course, it's not every man, but it is always men. And these are problems that women can't solve. We can try to knit community, but I feel like if we can't to be in this reparations with people, if we can't give allowances for not the best speech, like I don't want AI to perfectly script everything that's being written. I don't even want there to be a PC. I want there to be an understanding. And I feel like the more we argue about terms and whose responsibility it is to educate and who has to make the first move and who has to do this, it's all strategic ways to avoid that we've learned from our leadership, from our government officials, from the people in our towns. And I really am so admiring of um, the mayor of New York, the mayor of Chicago, who are just like, fuck it, we're just going to fix 10,000 potholes in the city in the next 2 weeks and just be done with the shit. I don't need to know which county is responsible for which allotment of fucking asphalt, and this guy works in this other borough, so he can't do the help with the. No, let's just fix the fucking potholes. Everybody's going to get
Hmm.
paid. We're just going to do that as a thing. And that's just a grasping of responsibility and being unwilling to be deterred by bullshit to solve the issue. And I would love it if that was happening in personal relationships, in community
Hmm.
relationships. Like in my town, Gonzales, having witnessed the chamber like literally implode on itself within the first 6 months of me going to meetings, having the leadership scramble for power over what? This place is a dying husk that could be revived, but every time a revival comes, you just squash it. Like nothing can be born here because of the squabbling of leadership. And I think um, it's just so telling. Like I'm going to do business in another town because it is an environment that is trying to be communal and make it easy to do business. And it reminds me of like the difference between Nevada City and Grass Valley doing business. And I know Nevada City is trying to protect it's protecting its peace, but it makes it really hard to have business. And Grass Valley is like, we want you to thrive in your business. You don't have to go to a city council meeting for us to approve your sign or your building colors. Like we just have, we have things in place for that. And here, we can just handle that. And so I feel like when we are in a place where our leadership is squabbling for correctness, that filters down into the community, and then everybody in the community has to have correctness before anything can be happening or resolved or in support of the actual people that these places are meant to serve. And I feel like my personal relationships are here to be of service to both of us. I feel like my community that I'm building with the craft and with the Madame Moonflower classes, those offerings are in service, and I'm not turning people away because they're not perfectly woke and using the right thing and they're wearing the right outfit and they've, got their crescent moon accoutrements on. You can only show up if you're aligned with the moon or whatever the case is. And I think the other piece of community is also letting people go if they just aren't a fit. Like this osmosis of come in if you're not causing harm, go if it's not serving you, in a way that it feels empowering and healthy to you. Because I think there's also people who really want to stay in disservice. They want to stay in the they'd rather be naming things than healing wounds, than bridging gaps. And if that's what they want to be doing, then they can go, and that can be what they do. And they could come back if they decide it doesn't work for them, you know? Oh, mhm.
By a demon or, this malicious spirit when what people really fear is like giving up control of who they've decided their personality is.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and 9 times out of 10, most people are walking around possessed by their personality. Like their personality has such a foothold on them and in them that the mere thought or idea of letting a higher divine being or an all the things my therapist has told me and all of my somatic awareness, like yeah, like by you know seeing how much people are possessed by their personality, it kills community because to
Mhm.
be so you are prioritizing and trying to sustain you the individual. When we can go outside of that, we can do repair work, we can do connection, we can forgive, we can forgive ourselves, we can forgive other people, and actually repair. And that is accountability and responsibility. There can't be accountability and responsibility if we're so possessed by our personality that what's most important is to sustain ourselves.
Yeah. Yes.
And everything else you said. But I was like, "Oh,
No,
yeah.
I love that so much,
Yeah."
the possession of, and I don't know, I feel like that could be a whole other talk. I appreciated that so much that I'm just like chewing on it like that was like uh,
Yeah.
well, let me be
It's
possessed
you
by this
said it.
land during this hallowed
Yeah.
ground. Let me be possessed by the land and show me the way.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, it's in my experience, allowing the personality to move out of the way and make space for possession of the land, elementals, benevolent ancestors, deities, gods, Loa, Orisha. It elevates us. Like we become like a vessel for something far greater than ourselves. We become a conduit. We're in service to something outside and bigger than ourselves. And to me, that is like this humbling, bringing you down to your knees onto the ground.
Hmm. I love that. I feel like that is a great place to wrap in that humbled openness. Mm, thank you so much. Mm. Looking forward to it. Thank you for Megan does all the admin and administration for these lives. So thank you so much to you for shouldering that responsibility and making this possible. And many thanks to anyone watching. We appreciate you. Bye.